Hey, good evening from the stands is with you again. And hey, look, I mean, we're so glad you're joining us and everything tonight. I know some of you have watched every show. Some of you are apparently allergic to what we're doing here, so you're staying away, but you're missing out. You're missing. This is the utmost football commentary. I'm Ashley Renfro. I'm in Birmingham. I love the Crimson Tide. I went to school there, actually. I did finish school, believe it or not. I want to talk about these other guys, though, who know so much more than I do. JJ, introduce yourself, sir.
My name is JJ Apostolico, Penn State grad and huge Penn State fan. I live in Little Nazareth, Pennsylvania. If you don't know where that is, people in State College will say it's just outside of Philadelphia. Speaking of Philadelphia, go Birds. Hopefully they're beating the Packers right now. We're recording. I'm going to try not to look. It's DVR'd. No spoilers, please.
Awesome. Fantastic, man. I'm going to pay a visit to Little Nazareth. So I've been to Lancaster, and I thought that was actually pretty cool. So I like that a lot and everything. Bo, you're up.
I'm Bo Gorham. I'm also in Birmingham, Alabama. Alabama born and raised. Went to Alabama for college. So we got a little bit of Alabama in the chat, but that's all right. I think anybody who's watching this hoping for a little extra Pac-12, I think he's noticed that Will's not here, so we might get a little bit more Pac-12 than we normally do.
I think that's fair.
Stick around and maybe you'll get a little extra.
I think that's fair. I mean, really, we don't give the Pac-12 much love, and just in spite of Will tonight, we're going to give them 24 seconds instead of 12. That's going to be it there. Look, I got to start this thing off. Last weekend showed us a little bit. It wasn't as dead of a slate as we have been seeing. The Tide played Southern Miss. Yeah, that was kind of what it is. Texas pulled off the big win over Oklahoma State. That was not easy. That thing went very long. I think the game between Georgia and Notre Dame maybe told us more about Notre Dame, honestly, than it did about Georgia. But I'd ask you guys, Bo, I mean, what was your big takeaway from last weekend?
My biggest takeaway is that Auburn's legit. I think that, I'm as an Alabama fan, I'm telling you that I'm a little worried about Auburn. Alabama's got some weaknesses around there. Their linebackers are young. Our lines haven't been looking as tough. Auburn, on the other hand, has got some tough line. It looks like their quarterback's finally coming into it. He's a little bit too quick to run, I think. But, I think he's making good decisions. I think that he's throwing the ball really well. I think that they've got a pretty complete team, and I'm extremely concerned for the Iron Bowl.
Man, that 18-year-old's playing with tremendous poise. I don't know about you guys, but when I was 18, poise was not the word to describe me. JJ, what about you, man? What did you see last weekend that was really startling?
What I saw is that, even though I'm big on the Big Ten and I like to think I know a little bit about it, my Big Ten champion prediction was absolutely wrong.
Oh, God.
I had Michigan beating Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game this year, so maybe I was right about Wisconsin. We'll find out about that, but
they seem legit.
It's not getting there. It's not happening this year. I was really holding out hope that, those first 2 weeks where they were just trying to figure it out, new offense, new system, they got a bye week, they'll figure it out, be competitive at least against Wisconsin on the road. That didn't happen. It's not like there's, make no mistake, this is not going to get fixed this year. They don't have the quarterback to fit Gaddis' system, and the rest of the team they're not ready to make the switch. The offensive line looks lost. The backs don't know how to run out of the shotgun. It's just they were not prepared to make this switch with the type of expectations they had.
Yeah, so for all the Michigan fans that might be watching, can I just interject and say you're welcome from Nick Saban and the University of Alabama for Josh Gaddis.
Yeah.
It's not Josh Gaddis' fault. It's a great point. I mean, it's the whole situation like at Georgia Tech right now. You're installing some things and doing some things that are totally different than the personnel will allow you to do, and it's not been rewarding so far. Wisconsin exposed the hell out of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the big thing, Gaddis was great at Penn State, too. We loved him there. A lot of Penn State fans were really nervous about Gaddis getting the job, and he still might make us regret it, in the next couple years, because he is a really great coach. He's especially a great wide receivers coach. But right now, the personnel is not fitting the system, and they're trying not to tailor it to the personnel, which is going to lead to some rocky times this year, I think.
Yeah, it could. You guys are on some great points here. And we brought up Wisconsin. We brought up Auburn.
Just to jump in there real quick.
Yeah, Bo.
Wisconsin, JJ, what do you think? Do you think Wisconsin's got the gumption to go all the way and maybe take down Ohio State?
Exactly
or you
where
think
I was
Ohio
going, yeah.
State's going to hold it
think
down?
I definitely give them a much better chance than I would have originally. I did have Wisconsin. They didn't have a totally tough schedule coming into this year. They did have Ohio State and Michigan, but outside of that, their schedule wasn't too tough. I had them at 11-1 to start the year, so that's looking pretty good right now.
I think so, yeah.
But so I think they definitely have more than a puncher's chance. But I think we're gonna find out a lot about Ohio State this week, and we're gonna see just how much of an animal that team really is.
Right.
I would give Wisconsin better than a 25% chance, but I wouldn't go too much higher.
Yeah, great question, Bo. I mean, and to kind of ponytail, or what's the word? Spin off this? Piggyback. I'm not thinking ponytails. God, where's my head at tonight? Must have been hanging out at a biker bar all day. Okay, so here's the thing. Because of what we saw last weekend, and we mentioned a few of the teams, Wisconsin, one of them, Auburn notably as well. Do you think that any separation has been, shown now as a result of last weekend? Or are we still kind of just in that September, it's hot, everybody's just kind of playing nobodies? I mean, what do you think, JJ?
I think that we did see a clear separation. I think there's about 8 or 9 teams that have the talent and the coaching to at least make the playoff.
Nice.
I'm not sure if we have the separation on who could actually win it, because I think there will be another separation there. It might just end up being Alabama and Clemson, or those are the two. Those are the only two that are able to win it. But right now, I mean, you go through the obvious 6 in LSU, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma. I think you add Auburn and Wisconsin to that, and I think you can, depending on how you feel about Texas's win over Oklahoma State and how they looked against LSU, I think that you could potentially add them, or Notre Dame, one or the other. I think you're probably,
you almost have to.
If you're not in the top 10 right now, I don't think that you have a great shot of making it.
That's a good point, Bo. Do you kind of concur? Do you have any curveballs?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that, and I think that here in the next couple of weeks, we'll see who's really got
no doubt
the gumption to go. Because I mean, honestly, we've got all these SEC games coming up. Everybody's going to start cannibalizing in the SEC, and it may turn out that not a single SEC team or only one SEC team rises to the cream. I mean, gets up to the top of the crop. I'm a little worried. I'd like to see a little bit more out of Alabama, and I think that we'll get a little bit of something out of A&M in 2 weeks. Or I guess, is it a week? No, it's 2 weeks. Yeah, it's a
2
week.
weeks. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ole Miss 2 days, and then at Kyle Field, I think.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. I think it's in College Station.
Auburn.
Yeah. Don't go to sleep on it. I mean, Auburn about let them crawl back in.
Exactly. So I'm a little worried about that, but I think that'll be a really big test for Alabama to see if they've really got the talent and everybody clicking. I mean, obviously we know they've got great wide receivers. We know they've got great quarterback. But what are the other pieces there? I'm not sure. I think our DBs are all right, but our linebackers are really young. Our line's pretty young. We've lost a lot of talent there. Worried about that. I think LSU obviously is looking like they're firing on all cylinders. I'd like to see a little bit more defense out of them, but I think that Joe Burrow's doing well enough to cover a lot of that. And I heard David Pollack, I think this week, talked about how we've got some Big 12 teams in the SEC, and he's talking about Alabama and LSU.
Yeah,
and I think he's not necessarily wrong. I mean, we got some high flyers, deep ball throwers right there in Alabama and LSU. I think Auburn and Georgia look a little bit more like SEC teams.
They do.
They're running the ball really well. They're throwing the ball pretty well. They're kind of full packaging it, and that's what I'm a little worried about, is that our LSU and Alabama going to be enough of a package to really handle those real full package teams. So
that's a good point. It's a good point. I mean, what we've seen in the past, and not to belabor the point, we got to move on, but what we've seen in the past is, as an Alabama fan, I like to see defense win championships. Penn State's probably very similar. They want to see defense win championships.
Definitely.
And Wisconsin wants to see defense win championships. I mean, but it's been a cultural thing in the Pac-12 and really the Big 12 for a very long time.
Yeah.
The defense is an afterthought. So maybe there's been a catch-up now a little bit with the rest of it. Game's changed.
I mean, you really think about, if someone told you 5 years ago that Alabama-LSU game this year, the over-under is going to be set in the 60s, 70s, you would have told him crazy.
yeah, you would've.
Absolutely.
Especially after the 9 and 6s, the 6
Well,
and
how about
3.
the Penn State Ohio State game a number of years? What was it? What was that? Was that like 10-7 or so? What was that score on that one?
There's been a lot
The
of
whiteout
low-scoring
game.
Big Ten games that's not really the case anymore. Especially Ohio State's going to put up points against everybody this year. I don't think it matters. Their offense is that good. But yeah, you're right. Across the board, offense is becoming more important. While we're going to talk more about the Pac-12. Pac-12 is actually putting more emphasis on defense all of a sudden. So, they're always the opposite.
They're counterculture, man. It's that West Coast counterculture crap,
They're hipsters out there. That's what it is.
Yeah, they are. I mean,
That's
like
what it
Stanford's
is.
going to like march out. The band's been wearing tie-dye for 50 years. I mean, what's next? I mean, they bring Andrew Luck back on as an assistant. The guy comes out in bell bottoms. I mean, what's next? I mean, peace and love, I guess, whatever. But moving along, I guess. That's some pretty good analysis about the teams that have separated themselves going upward. I'm not going to talk about the teams going downward because I don't like to say terrible things about Toledo in public. But I would ask, though, for the noon games, can we jump into shots and chasers here? Because this is like pretty much my favorite thing here. And the first one that comes up, SEC, and I know you folks who are not SEC country people are tired of hearing about SEC already, but let's get Texas A&M and Arkansas out of the way just to sweep the plate here a little bit. Bo, could you give me your thoughts on this, man? The Ags and the backs here.
I think that A&M is going to handle this one pretty easily. I think that they've had a little bit of some rough starts. I mean, obviously they've had one of the most difficult schedules this season, period.
Yeah, it's tough.
And I think that they're going to have a pretty solid bounce back game here. I think that they showed a lot of heart and a lot of talent in the later parts of the Auburn game. And so I think that they'll probably handle Arkansas.
Yeah. Kellen Mond, I think, could be able to feast on what Arkansas is putting out there, but I no idea. JJ, you want to throw anything out there about that one?
I have a question for Bo. Actually, he's more of the SEC guy. Did we overrate Texas A&M as a team? Like, is it? I understand their schedule off and everything, but I mean, they did not look competitive against Auburn. They put up some garbage points, yes, but at home they were down a lot. And they didn't
I give more credit to Auburn, don't you, Bo? I mean,
yeah, I think that it's more credit to Auburn than it is to Texas A&M losing. I think that A&M kind of lost a lot of momentum after that Clemson game. I think that they've, last year it was such a close one with Clemson, and they felt like they had an opportunity. And then this year, there never really was an opportunity for them against Clemson. And I think that most of us kind of knew that. I thought we might see a little bit keeping it close. Maybe we'd have a touchdown here, a touchdown there, but they just didn't even really get going, I don't think. And I think that they're kind of coming off that sluggish feeling off that loss. And I think they've kind of lost their drive to win in this season. And so one of the things that I think is that I think that they're going to have to find a way to bounce back. And I think that they can do it here. And if they don't, then they're probably going to start losing a lot of games.
Yeah. Hot take. Jimbo is not on the hot seat. Okay. All right. So that's a pretty big deal. Now, I got as a chaser, and we struggled with what to find here. Take a pause of breath. But this one's got some compelling stories to it. Buffalo at Miami, and I don't think Miami of Ohio.
It's Miami of Ohio.
Yeah. But there's some compelling underlying stories here, and I'd like to hear a little bit more. JJ, can you offer me something there?
Yeah, I think Buffalo is a sneaky team this year.
Yeah.
They scared the shit out of me in week 2.
The Bulls.
At halftime, and it had us as Penn State fans a little worried about our offensive line. And then we see a team in Temple that dominated Maryland at the line of scrimmage get completely blown off the ball last week. Like they could not keep up with Buffalo's defensive line. Like this is a team again. This is everyone was all big on Maryland after week 2, and then Temple goes in and beats Maryland, and then Temple goes on the road and loses to Buffalo. So keeping with that trend, I do think Buffalo is going to be a very good team this year in the MAC at least. Yeah. I think they lose this one. I think that they're going to have a little bit of a hangover. Against just like Maryland had a hangover after the Syracuse game, Temple had a hangover after the Maryland game. I think that trend continues. I think at home. I mean, you would think after the impressive win and the impressive showings that Buffalo had, that the line would be more than 2.5. They're only a 2.5 point favorite on the road. I think Miami's going to win this one outright.
Man, that is some great insight right there on that one. And I would say that it seems like maybe there's a little bit of the old word they use in college basketball, like parity, happening among those levels right there. Now, is there parity between Clemson and Akron? There is not, but there's probably also not parity between Duke and Stony Brook in basketball. So parity is kind of happening there in the middle tier, and I consider MAC teams to be middle tier.
I really think that, you know, we kind of bitch and complain about the playoff being the same 4 or 5 teams every year, but in terms of you brought up parity, in terms of, you know, from probably like 15 to like 60 in where you would rank teams, there's been the last couple of years you could pretty much interchange a lot of those teams.
I think so.
That's true.
There's not a lot of separation there. Like some of the mid-majors have done a really good job of, you know, building some athletic facilities, getting more recruits in there. They're getting better. They're never going to be at the level of, you know, those top 6 teams.
Yeah.
But those mid-tier Power 5 teams, they're not doing anything different than some of those Group of 5 teams at this point. Where there's becoming a wider, if you will, like a middle class of college football. There's a much wider middle class and a much smaller elite class than there used to be, maybe even 10, 15.
Yeah, and like last weekend we saw the former 2017 co-national champion UCF lose at Pitt, and they're a great example of that 15 to 60 range you talked about. I mean, Bo, do you think that I'll ask you? Do you think UCF has now relegated themselves back into that group instead of their aspirations of being in that top tier now? I mean, what do you think?
Here's the thing. I was always a little tough on UCF just because I didn't necessarily think that they had the talent to play with some of the bigger dogs in the conferences.
Right.
But I do think that they've gotten a taste of the winning culture. I think that they want to continue that. And I think that loss was a bit of a heartbreaker for them.
It was
I think
tough.
they can come back and really, I think one of the hardest things that anybody will say in college football is that it's very difficult to maintain a win streak. Winning consistently is the most difficult thing you can do in college football because you get complacent. And I think that complacency is kind of the biggest enemy. You know, maybe I'm parroting Nick Saban, but I think anybody can agree that complacency is going to be your biggest problem. And I think that maybe, just maybe, I didn't really see it in the game because I watched the game pretty closely and I didn't see a lot of complacency in the game, but I think that maybe early on there might have been a little bit. I think that may have been what let Pitt kind of keep up with them and finally hold them and win the game. I just think that they're going to come back real angry. I think it's going to light a fire unless they get that real – because that's the other thing. After having the winning season and having kind of that continuous win streak, you got 2 options. Either you come back with fire or you come back in a slump. You know, I mean, like there's no middle ground there. You're either coming back and saying, we got to win some more because, damn it, we just lost that game. Or you're coming back and you're saying, damn, we just lost that game. What's the point anymore?
It's over. We got no shot,
if
right?
If there was ever a chance, if there was ever a perfect spot to have a bounce back game, is this week when you get UConn. That's the perfect spot to make sure.
Put up 50 on them. Make us start talking about you again. That's my thing. I think UCF has the opportunity to as well.
Yeah, I like this. I like to see the variety of kickers now coming into college football. And some schools have Colorado, for instance, had a female kicker at some point. UConn, if I might add, might have female offensive linemen. I'm not sure. All right, inappropriate. But moving along here, guys. It kind of is an interesting spin because we talk about parity from that last segment. And we need to talk about the fact that does the transfer portal itself, will it contribute to that parity a little bit? Will we not start seeing the guy that was at Houston or was at USC transfer to a Hawaii or transfer to a Boise State, who are kind of in that 15 to 60 you talked about? Are there guys that are on teams right now in a segment called Pack It Up? And I love the graphic there, by the way. This is probably how my day should have been by about noon today, honestly. But Pack It Up. Are there guys on teams, and can you name the team and the guy who probably need to just go ahead and get out because it's a bad situation? They're not going to win this year, and that guy could use the eligibility elsewhere. Joe, let's let Bobo. Let's let Bo go first.
Sure. One guy that I think that should probably pack it up, maybe not necessarily transfer, but use his red shirt is Brian Maurer at Tennessee. I think that he showed that he's got some real, he came in at after halftime and led the balls down the field. The team looked respectable, at least to the point where they haven't looked like the dumpster fire that they've been all season.
Yeah.
So
Florida was waylaying him at that point already.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so one of the things that I think is if he could use a red shirt here, take some time, let Garantano just kind of do whatever it is that Garantano's doing. That's one of the big things that I think that Garantano's regressed as a quarterback. I don't think that he's the guy anymore. But I think that ultimately you've already screwed the pooch this season. Yeah. So you've kind of just got to let it play out the way it is.
When you lose to Georgia State, you've already screwed the pooch.
Oh, my
gosh. Exactly. Oh. God, that was
we can't get past it. And Garantano is like a poor man's Kellen Mond to me. I mean, I don't know. JJ, you got a guy there, maybe in the Big Ten or any other conference you can think of
let me preface, this is one that's definitely not going to happen.
Okay.
But I think it should. And this is kind of a hot take. I think that Adrian Martinez from Nebraska should take a redshirt year and return to Nebraska as a redshirt sophomore when the team gets better. So
all right, hold on. Let me get my pen. I got to write this down. This is terrible. It's so confusing.
So I think Adrian Martinez, just like De'Aaron King, should sit out a year. Nebraska this year, clearly they've shown. I mean, after some of the games that they played this year, they're not talented. They're not going to meet the high expectations that the media put on them this year. It's not going to happen. But this is a team that's recruiting well under Scott Frost. They were the 23rd ranked recruiting class for Adrian Martinez's freshman year. This past year, the 2019 class is 18th in the country. They've got talent coming in. They're just young. And Adrian Martinez, just like De'Aaron King, could benefit from some extra time working with Scott Frost. He could benefit from having better guys around him in the coming years. They could challenge Wisconsin for 3 years with Adrian Martinez. It gives them more time to win a Big Ten title under Scott Frost, under Adrian Martinez, if he takes a step back, learns a little bit more, as long as he's willing to be a 5-year college quarterback, which I don't know that he is. I don't think he has a great NFL skill set yet anyway. Yeah. So I think that it actually fits. It's just a matter of, it's tough to tell a sophomore. It's a little bit different. De'Aaron King's a senior, and he hadn't redshirted yet. So he's up against his last year. Adrian Martinez is a sophomore, and you're not going to redshirt him in the next 2 years when they're going to be better. Mm-hmm. This would be the year to do it. And I they're not going to. This is I get this is a just hypothetical, but if there was a team in the Big Ten that had a quarterback or a player that should do it, it would be him. It's just the Nebraska fan base would go nuts.
Nebraska is very interesting. As many friends as I have, I work for a company in my day job that doesn't matter because this is the only job that really matters. But I have so many contacts in the state of Iowa, and a lot of them are went to college at home, at Lincoln. A lot of them went to those schools there in that area. And so their expectations for Nebraska are one thing, and they remember, and I remember, for God's sakes, the 90s when Nebraska was running the show, basically. It was either Florida or it was Nebraska, and they were running the show. And I feel like the Scott Frost thing is almost an experiment in some ways, because what he did at UCF in a very short amount of time was against the Temples of the world and the Villanovas of the world and everything. Whereas at Nebraska, you're playing big boy football now, and your opponents every week are big boys. And it may not go as smoothly. He's a homegrown boy. He's from there. He played QB on the national championship winning team. They got to be ultimately patient with him.
Yeah, they do. They definitely need to be patient with him. I think they're going to get back to where they not to 90s level dominance. That's never happening again. Any Nebraska fan that thinks that's going to happen, it's not. They could have years where they can contend for the Big Ten and win the Big Ten. Maybe
I think so. Yeah.
Up at some point. But they're never going to be on the Alabama-Clemson level. It is too hard to recruit in that area anymore to get that level of talent.
That's true.
Yeah, and Nebraska's got great facilities, though. I mean, it's interesting. Omaha's nothing outstanding otherwise, or Lincoln.
But you try to get Scott Frost had his footprint in Florida. You try to get a bunch of Florida guys to move out to middle of nowhere USA. And it's not easy. It's not.
Yeah.
And I know Scott Frost is a great coach, very good recruiter. I don't see them getting to that level, but I think he's Nebraska's best shot.
Yeah.
I mean, by far. You're not going to get a better coach in Nebraska at this point because of that recruiting situation.
Yeah, well, he'll have a lot of leash, too. I mean, being homegrown, he's they're going to give him the opportunity. They're going to give
yeah.
him time. I don't think he's going to get hot seated anytime soon.
It's funny that our pack it up segment is winds up spinning around on a coach and on a particular program, and it also is sort of ironic to me because it strikes me that Nebraska is an example of where championships have been won, great tradition there and everything like that, and now you got a couple of really standout players, Adrian Martinez being the one we've named here and everything. But this program this year is probably not going to achieve what they expect. It's just too soon, and that's an example of pack it up for what our segment is. So let me. Segment is. So let me jump on here. Our social media here, Reed. This is our plug. So people deal with it. Okay. It's what we do. It's how we get rich. Okay. All right. It's what it is. All right. So you got to sign up. You got to find us in the different places as you see on the screen right there. From the stands, it's all over the web. Okay. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're not on Instagram because, as I mentioned last week, that's a threat to some of us who are married. It's a threat to our existence. Instagram's just not. Look, here's my problem with Instagram.
I'm still waiting for the calendar. I'm pretty sure I teased the calendar in the second week, and we're still not working on that.
There's no calendar yet. We don't have yoga pants. That's why you don't have your calendar yet, and that's why we're not on Instagram. There's a direct conflict there. It doesn't work. But everywhere else, we're there. You need to find us on Facebook. You need to subscribe. Watch our great stuff here. We put a lot of other stuff besides our ugly mugs on TV every week, but find us on social media. Follow us, please. We appreciate it. And if you have the ability to contribute for 3 needy people who really have served their country very well, I think you should. I think you should. All right. Enough of that crap. More shots and chasers, because this is like the best part of the whole thing. And I think everyone in the room right now, with the exception of one who shall be unnamed, is having alcohol at the moment. Shots and chasers for 3:30, that nice time slot in the middle of the day, where in Alabama it's still 141 degrees, but in other places it might be more comfortable. I want to start with, this one is compelling. How does Notre Dame react with Virginia on Saturday? JJ, what do you got for that, man?
I want to start by saying I was really impressed by Notre Dame against
Georgia.
I did not expect that to be a close game. I mean, I didn't expect it to be like a 30, 40-point blowout, but I also didn't expect it to go into the fourth quarter like it did.
It was a ball game.
They played extremely well in one of the most hostile environments. I say that as a State fan who has gone to many games in hostile
Not a cakewalk.
That Georgia atmosphere that we saw on TV, that was no joke. And some of the fan videos that I saw were they brought it as fans. That was a tough place to play, and they came out right out of the gate. They took the lead 7-0 out of the gate, and they battled the whole time. Their defense was extremely impressive.
It was a great game, and Sanford Stadium has gotten a reputation as being too quiet in the past sometimes, and from what my experience of having Georgia come to Tuscaloosa and having Penn State come to Tuscaloosa, I feel like Penn State travels about as well as anybody that's not named LSU, honestly. But they'll bring their own noise section. Georgia fans need to keep that going and everything, and that's probably what got that win for them. Notre Dame was tough. I mean, Bo, anything you want to follow up on that with before you jump to yours, which is a very compelling Pac-12 game?
Yeah. One of the things that I think is going to be real interesting is to see if Virginia can keep up the production that they've had. They've been able to put up some big points recently. The big win over Florida State. I think that it's about where Virginia's getting into a stretch of games where we're really going to find something out about the team. They've got Notre Dame. They've got Miami coming up. They're getting into some ACC play after that. And so I think that Virginia's really going to kind of be tested here, and we're going to see if they can kind of start saying, hey, maybe we're going to be getting to one of those teams that might be able to break 15, get up there, and maybe shake things up. I'm not saying that Virginia is going to be the next national title
Not
contender.
committing yet, right? That's
I think that they've got an opportunity here to really make a statement win and say, hey, Virginia football's pretty damn good, you know?
Yeah, let's go Who's. I mean, it's time for somebody else in the ACC to kind of make noise. It's not going to be Tech. All right, it's not going to be Va Tech this year. It's not going to be Georgia Tech this year.
It's not going to be Miami this year.
It's sure as shit not going to be Florida State. Okay,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's really coming down to Clemson and everybody else. And if Virginia can get a little bit of noise going here, this would be a marquee win for them and might make people start thinking more seriously about them.
And
so
they're definitely the favorite in the Coastal right now because the other team that looks the best out of that division is Pitt, and they already have the win over them. So they're in the driver's
they beat Pitt.
The tiebreaker is done, and as impressive as Pitt's win was, and I've watched a lot of UCF to know that that's a physical football team, but they're not deep. And what Pitt was able to do was lead them the whole way. In fact, by a large margin at one point, let them come back, still beat them. So I mean, that's some perseverance. Pitt may have better depth than UCF actually, but for the Chaser though, man, this one right here. I mean, we don't give a lot of love to these guys, but USC at Washington, Bo. Would you give me a verdict there on that one?
Wait, can I just let me just
go JJ. I know you love the Pac-12.
This is I've been cut off every time I've been on the show by Will trying to talk about the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 has been one of the most compelling conferences this year. It really has.
It has been entertaining.
Just go back to last week. We'll get more on Washington State later. That's going to be the best game of the year. Washington State UCLA. You had a quarterback, and Anthony Gordon, throw 9 touchdown passes, and he lost the game. When do you see that? You don't see that in anything other than Pac-12.
Peak Pac-12, yes. Peak
Pac-12.
Pac-12.
That's the only place you see that. And you also were talking about how great Auburn was. Auburn was very close to losing by almost double digits against Oregon. Oregon's a good football team.
That's true. That's true.
There are so many storylines out of the Pac-12 that I have not been able to get out of my that I needed to rant. I'm tired of
I thank you for it. I think it was well served. Unfortunately, the bad news is you used every bit of the damn Pac-12 12 seconds just then. So it's over. They won't get anything now.
No, that's not true.
No, we have to give them some love. You're absolutely right. The stories coming out of there are almost some of the more entertaining football. And I agree with you on Oregon. They're not dead.
Yeah, they've been some of the closest games in the country. You want to talk about parity? I know they're probably not going to have a college football playoff participant this year. You want to talk about parity? Pretty much, you go down. Maybe you take out Oregon State, and I would have said UCLA last week, but all of a sudden they're beating Washington State. Pretty much, anybody can beat anybody. And you can't say that about any other Power 5 conference.
Ultimate parity.
And that's great. I mean, you look at.
One thing that I do, you say everybody can beat everybody. Now, does that mean they're all really good or they're all really bad? That's my.
It's a great point.
It's a fair point, but it doesn't mean it's not compelling. And
right, it is compelling. It's good football to watch.
And I said it earlier. You know, they're kind of going in a different direction. Some of the teams like Oregon and Stanford's always kind of been a defensive team, but Oregon, they've definitely got one of the best defenses in the country.
Oh, they're tough, yeah.
And you would have said again, just like the Alabama LSU over under. If you would have told someone 5-6 years ago that Oregon was going to be a defensive, not an offensive, nobody was going to believe you.
Yeah.
But these are the type of storylines that are coming out of the Pac-12 that we don't talk about because of Will's Pac-12 seconds rule. And I'm sure he'll yell at me the next time I'm But it's just, there's a lot of great things to talk about there.
It really is. I mean, Oregon is
the Chaser, USC, Washington. It's the best Pac-12 game on the slate. I think Washington is going to continue to rebound from that loss to Cal, who, last year Cal got off to a 3-0 start last year and kind of fell off. They became a 7-5 team and they were kind of so. I think this year under Wilcox, they're actually taking a step forward.
Yeah.
They have a chance. They have a leg up on one of the other best teams in the North in Washington with that win. They are going to, if not, I don't know if they win the Pac-12 North, but they will at least make life difficult for other teams in that division to win it. But I think it also means that Washington is not as bad as that loss made them look. I think that they take care of USC, who is on their third-string quarterback now, going on the road for his first start. We saw how that worked with Kenny Slovis going to BYU. I think this will be somewhat close, but I think Washington holds the day for the majority of the game.
Yeah, best thing about the Pac-12 to me is like right now, every other of the Power 5 conferences, you can pick one of the two divisions and you kind of have it already figured out who's going to win that. Ohio State in the Big 12, Clemson in the ACC. The SEC East is going to most likely be Georgia. But the Pac-12 is like, who's going to win the North? Who's going to win the South? Who the hell knows? I mean, if Tijuana had a program, they might be in the running with Arizona State at this point. You know, I mean, I think they've got a junior college down there. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I've only been to Tijuana once and I don't remember it. So it's pretty good. I mean, it's that slate, that 3:30 to me, and weirdly the Pac-12 being in it, that's the best games of the day to me is right there in that slot, because at night it turns to crap. But before I get to that,
hold on now. I didn't get to say anything about the USC Washington game.
Well, feel free, sir.
I did cut you off. A little Will-esque here. I cut you
yeah,
off.
he had a rant.
Look, I get it. I'm here for it. That's totally fine. Let it come out, because Will's not here to shut you up.
That's right. So Bo, take your shots here.
USC's coming off a pretty solid win over Utah.
Yes,
not so much solid within the game, but they were able to pull it out. And so what I think is that USC might be finding a little bit of an identity here. I don't know if it's enough to beat Washington, but I think that it's possible to say that they might eke it out with Washington. And I would love to actually see that, because I'm a big fan of the chaos, as long as it's not too high up on the right.
not touching 1 or 2 or 3, right? Yeah,
You're playing with fire there, guys.
I am playing with fire, but man, is it not just so fun to see a team that you thought was down and out come back and just smack the pants off somebody? You know,
that's great. And only in the Pac-12, it seems to me.
Right now, the Pac-12 is a hotbed for it. They're all ranked around each other. They're all kind of scrapping at each other. I love it. I'm really excited about this game.
It's interesting.
I think Washington probably will pull it out, but I'd love to see a USC upset.
That's phenomenal. I mean, won't the three of us just shit the bed if there's 2 Pac-12 teams in the CFP this year?
Oh, I would be shocked.
I mean,
I don't even know how that could happen at that point.
We are all 3 jobless if that happened.
The only way that could have happened is if Oregon had beaten Auburn, but it's not that can't happen now.
Too far down the road. Yeah.
If Oregon had pulled that out and Auburn had continued to be as good as they are, and Auburn was also in the college football playoff discussion, and a team like USC has the talent, say USC put it together,
right?
It wasn't out of the realm of possibility if Oregon had won that game. But now, I mean, also with Cal being the only unbeaten team in the Pac-12 right now, it just there's no way. It's
mind blown right there, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona State, until they lost, I really felt, Jesus God, we have blown the Pac-12 seconds to Pac-12 minutes.
Yep.
But
hey,
but
we've been holding it all back. Will's been keeping us beat down in the dungeon over there.
It's like forlorn glove here or something, We're just blowing it out.
If anyone's hating this right now, it's Will's fault for not letting us get it out sooner. He's been forcing it down, and like I said, it's been really compelling football.
It has been. We're 12 minutes into the Pac-12 seconds here, okay? Just off of a chaser here, okay? And Bo actually literally almost came through the screen and kicked both JJ and I's ass because he didn't get to put his input on USC Washington. So that's where we are here, guys.
Look, good football is good football wherever it's played.
It is, absolutely. And I personally like to see the Trojans do well. I think that as a college football blue blood, I mean, I want to see them be successful and everything. I don't want to see their stadium go from 12,000 students showing up and nobody else to 181,000 showing up because they're good all of a sudden, a la the Miami Hurricanes, okay? I want their fans to be their fans all the time, like they should be. I imagine Penn State is the same way. When they're doing well, the place is filled up, but when they're not doing so well, they're still filled up because PSU people. That's right, Penn State people, they come to the game.
I just watch it there. We're always full.
Loyalty. That's what I want to see. I mean, I was in school at Alabama during the Mike Shula years and just prior. Okay, people still came to the damn games. Okay, and paid a premium for the ticket to watch the Brett girl head coach our team. And to a likely loss to somebody like Northern Illinois, as an example. All right, that's just one, but I'll move on, okay? So the next segment is something new we're kind of introduced this week. It's called Fade Me, and I had to read it off there to make sure I worded it properly. And fade.
Next is Don't Tell Me.
Actually, let's hold off on that.
You want to go? Don't tell me later. All right.
No, I want to
We'll
do Don't
fade-
Tell Me Now
we're gonna
because that's
fade
the damn
you.
format.
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
gonna fade
All right.
you
We'll
out.
fade you, and then we'll go to Don't Tell Me.
Fade, Ashley, don't tell me something, JJ, about whatever. Don't tell me.
All right, this hot take that popped up on the subreddit on Thursday today, that some article written by some Michigan writer that said that Michigan could pull off a 2016 type Penn State run.
Oh,
Just don't tell me that that's going to happen, because it's not. And I
No.
kind of outlined this in my takeaway. Michigan is also debuting a new offense like Penn State did in 2016, but Penn State showed life in those first couple of weeks on offense. Michigan has not.
no.
Penn State also dealt with a wide array of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. We were down to our 8th, 9th string linebacker playing Michigan when we got walloped. Michigan is not. Michigan is still on the guys that are supposed to be their top talents.
Yeah.
There's no reinforcements coming. This is it. This is the team. This is what they have. This is not good enough to win a Big Ten title. It's just not. And the fact that someone's trying to float that out there, that they could make this kind of run, it's not going to happen. It's just not.
Yeah.
I agree with you, JJ, and I think that Michigan fans need to get it through their heads that it's a shift right now. It's a paradigm shift in Ann Arbor. They're trying to change the way that they've done things for a very long time. And there's going to be bumps. There's going to be hiccups. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to click immediately.
No,
but you
it's
got to give it time and let it work itself out. And then, maybe you can start thinking about, all right, maybe we're a contender this year.
But
It's just one of those things. Let it run its course.
Yeah.
But this is especially a team where Harbaugh was recruiting for his offense, which was a pro-style offense, which really doesn't work at the elite levels of college football anymore. So now they're
Not
trying
right
to bring all this pro-style offense type talent and trying to make them a spread offense, and it's not going to work right.
That's a good observation. I mean, Michigan and Nebraska seem to me like they're kind of at a similar point there almost. They've got to be right through this patience because they've got people in charge that know what to do.
Yeah,
Those guys are just got to get their people in place.
Right.
Yeah, because another don't tell me just to go off of that. I understand that Michigan's going to have a bad year, but don't tell me Michigan's finding anyone better than Jim Harbaugh.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally agree. I think the guy is cut out for the job and everything. I made the point off camera that I feel like the success he had at Stanford might not all have been his. It doesn't hurt to have a guy named Andrew Luck in there, but it also helps to have an OC that is pretty dynamic in what all he can do with great talent and everything. That guy's now at the Baltimore Ravens as an OC, and they're doing pretty well this year. So maybe Michigan is just that close, and that OC hire will be next. So they can thank the University of Alabama and Nick Saban for their current offensive coordinator. Bo, what about you, man? What's your thought on Don't Tell Me?
I've been talking a lot about Tennessee, but that's just because they're the dumpster fire of the season, it seems like. So my don't tell me that Jeremy Pruitt is getting fired this season.
Okay.
I think he's still got a little bit of rope. I think that he's going to, I think he's going to at least have the beginning of next season to kind of figure something out. He obviously shit the bed this year. But I don't think that you can – one of my things is I feel like Tennessee's been running this carousel real fast. He's been throwing these coaches out of there as fast as they can get him in there almost.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you can sit here and tell me that that's good for a program. I mean, they've got people transferring out like crazy. These recruits come to play for a specific coach. You got to give them an opportunity to let the coach actually play with their recruits.
Yeah.
And so one of my things is I just think you've got to give him some time. I know it's rough, and I know it looks like he doesn't have a lot of leadership skill right now. But I think that just this season is kind of – I don't want to call it rebuilding because Tennessee's been rebuilding for God knows how long. But I just think you've got to give him enough time to really figure things out because I don't necessarily think he was ready for a head coaching job when they hired him.
Yeah.
And I think that he's kind of got to figure out a way to light a fire under these guys' asses and get them to really want to play because Tennessee doesn't look like they want to play every week.
Yeah,
and
it's not good football when you watch them and everything. I think it's very interesting.
Well, and there are glimmers, there are sparks. When the freshmen came in and led them down the field this week, you saw a football team.
That's true. That's true.
They weren't absolute shit. They were all right. So I don't know. I think you got to give him an opportunity.
And
Yeah.
to your point, Bo, that's a Jeremy Pruitt recruit.
Right.
That's not a Butch Jones recruit.
Great point.
So, in my opinion, and I know I don't work for a university, but from a fan's perspective, even if my team, even if Penn State, God forbid James Franklin goes somewhere else and we have to rebuild again, you need to give a coach at least one recruiting.
Yeah.
Is you can't judge him on someone else's talent, even
Right.
good or bad. So, because if realistically, from a Penn State perspective, I mean, knock on wood, that if James Franklin were to leave, whoever we brought in, he might be better X's and O's, but I highly doubt he'd be a better recruiter. So you'd have to wait to know for sure if he is a long-term answer until after he actually. Same thing goes for a bad team. You need to give that guy time to bring in his own talent to fit his. Just like, Michigan doesn't have a compatible, skill set to their talent right now. Team to their talent. Need to give time for the coach to actually put his system in with his players.
That wins and losses is the other ultimate way that they get measured, but us fans are just very impatient there with that and everything. Sure. And I know at Alabama they gave Mike Shula 4 years, and in year 3 the team was right there on the cusp of an SEC title on kind of a coming off probation, but they kind of folded up at the end. But year 3 was a positive move, 10 wins. But year 4 was a fall off the cliff, and he was run out of there. So if you're by your measure, if I recruit a guy at 17 out of high school and I've got him there and he's going to be on campus for at least 3 years, I better by year 3 be turning the corner, because year 4 will be the end for me if not. And Jeremy Pruitt's in year 2.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. That's the big thing.
I think a lot of it too is I just don't know what happened to Garantano as a football player. I know I said this earlier in the segment, but man, oh man, he at the end of the season last year, he looked okay. He looked like, all right, maybe he's not the best quarterback. He's probably not going to go to the NFL, but he can at least get the ball down, make some pretty solid decisions. This year, I don't know where his head's been. I don't know if he's in the clouds. I don't know what's the deal has been, but he's been making bad decisions. He's been running the ball poorly. I don't like him at all. And so seeing the freshman
I think he's hitting the wacky weed, man. That's what's fucking him
might
up,
be.
You know what?
I mean, for all I know, that's what it is. I mean, but seeing the freshman come in, seeing the little spark, I liked what I saw.
Yeah. This is also, again, to play devil's advocate to my own point. Jeremy Pruitt's not an offensive coach.
No, he's not.
Tarantino's taking a step back.
Great point.
You have to also wonder, to play devil's advocate, is he gonna have trouble developing offensive talent? And that's something you start to analyze at an early stage, but you still have to give him the time.
It's probably 3 years is your number. Am I developing talent and everything? You guys have Jeremy Pruitt kind of nailed down. I really hope some University of Tennessee trustees watch our show tonight. Now, and I take back what I said about Garantano smoking Greenleaf, okay, because I don't know that. I broke down the Jeremy Pruitt situation pretty good, and it's just so many parallels.
I'm going to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Coming from a Saban defense, and Saban's got his fingers all over that defense.
He does.
And so he probably didn't have a lot of control in that situation. So that's another thing that I'm a little worried about with Pruitt is, all right, now you're in charge of everything. Do you have the ability to kind of make those choices, make those decisions, and kind of, as opposed to just being focused on one or the other?
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I don't think that it's time to kick him. I think you got to give him a little bit more time, but I mean, damn it if that seat ain't going to be lava next year.
I think you gave me a great lead in to our next segment of Shots and Chasers there, because to me, the Kentucky-South Carolina game kind of typifies a guy who used to be a defensive coordinator and now he's a head coach, and can he run the whole thing, And Will Muschamp is that. Not only does he sweat a hell of a lot on the sidelines like I do, but not only does he have high stress and his veins come out of his neck in traffic, I'm sure, I need somebody, one of you guys, to break down Kentucky, South Carolina for me, because that might be the best game of the night, honestly.
I don't know. I mean, here's my thing. Both of these teams don't really have an identity. I think Kentucky's coming off a big season last season, and they don't really have that fire like they did. They're kind of middle of the road, and I don't think they know what they want to be right now.
Yeah.
And I think South Carolina's kind of the same way. I think both of them are competing for a bowl game in this game, and so I think that the winner probably makes it and the loser probably doesn't. And so one of my things is, all right, who's going to find that identity? Who's going to step up and really make the plays that they've got to make at this point? I mean, we're getting down there. You got to make some wins here. You got to really find a way to pull this out. And if you don't, you're probably packing it up. I mean, you're probably out of there. No bowls for you.
Bowl eligibility maybe on the line right there between that one.
Yeah, I got for that game. It's interesting that it's a game of teams starting back up. Both the quarterbacks that they had starting the year are out for injury. Bentley and Wilson. Bentley for South Carolina, Wilson for Kentucky.
Right.
They were both the starting quarterbacks. They're both out now. So to go on Bo's point, they're looking for identity. The identity that they thought they might have had going into the season is not there anymore.
Right.
You have new guys at quarterback, especially on Kentucky side, when your whole identity last year was Benny Snell, and he went to draft.
Right.
At least
That's
you
right.
still had Wilson to be your quarterback, but now he's hurt. So you don't have that identity. And like Bo said, especially South Carolina, they don't have a lot of winnable games left on their schedule. They have such a tough. Like we talked about Texas A&M earlier having a tough schedule.
Yeah.
South Carolina's is just as difficult.
They finish up with Clemson, played Alabama last week. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're going to have they were going to have trouble getting 6 wins regardless. If they lose to Kentucky, I don't see it happening.
Goodness gracious! I mean, they're the Eastern Division version of Texas A&M with the schedule that they have. It's tough, and I don't know how you luck out and get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 all on your schedule in the same season and have those be really great teams. You just gotta. The gods are against you if you get to that point.
They are.
Okay. So hopefully
really
for Will Muschamp, it's not that way. But later or at the same time, although knowing how it's Pac-12, and I probably shouldn't give them more time, I got to talk about Stanford and Oregon State. We've got it up there. That's our chaser tonight. JJ, you want to open us there on that one?
Yeah, I'll love to talk about a little more Pac-12.
Apparently.
I think this is an interesting game. This is more of This is going to be an interesting game to watch because I think it's going to show that Oregon State has actually started to make some strides, and also show that Stanford has taken some steps back. It's kind of like a meet in the middle type of game.
Two ships passing in the night, huh?
Yeah, Oregon State. I not to say that Oregon State's going to pass Stanford because I don't think that's going to happen. But I think Oregon State's offense is going to surprise some people. This is an Oregon State offense that has been able to put up points. For a couple of years, but even you saw their game against Oklahoma State.
Yeah,
did pretty well against Texas's offense, and Oregon State put up almost the same amount of points. This is an Oregon State team that has a good offense. They're going up against a Stanford team that has a KJ Costello that's still a little banged up from playing against Northwestern in Week 1.
Yeah,
and a Stanford team in general that's just kind of down this year. I think it's going to be a really good game. I still think Stanford wins, but I think that Oregon State is closing the gap on at least some of the bottom level teams of the Pac-12.
Oh man, I guess what we're saying here really is there truly was nothing better at 7 or 7:30 at night for us to talk about, was there?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. This is a Pac-12 game that is not as good as some of the other ones on the slate.
Yeah, but what were you gonna add?
I'm going to throw a little wrench in this because Stanford's a 1-3 team right now.
Ugh.
And I think that Oregon State might be able to throw a little upset. They've been able to put some points up on the board. And so I'm going to go a little bit against you here, JJ, and I'm going to say that Oregon State's going to surprise some people just because I don't necessarily think that Stanford's going to be keeping up with them offensively. Yeah, I think that Stanford's had some big problems offensively, and I think that Oregon State's going to be able to kind of put up some points modestly, and it's just going to kind of continue. I don't think they're going to have, a 21-point quarter or anything like that, but I think they're going to be consistently putting up enough points, and I think they're going to surprise some people.
And
I think Stanford's probably going to.
Both of you picked different teams to win. JJ with Stanford and Bo picked Oregon State, but. Yeah. Both of you give me the same exact story, though, that Oregon State is to be feared by Stanford and that they're going to do some things to make that a scary game for the Cardinal. Or not be surprised if Oregon State wins that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's way more than, Pac-12 seconds, but whatever. So I wanted to talk about it earlier, but can we do Fade Me Now production?
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yeah, I'm okay with that now.
Let's do Fade Me.
Dear God. It's like pulling. It's like, I don't know. It's like having to do this conversation with my wife. She's still probably here. All right. So Fade Me. So this is one of those things here where, let me set it up for these guys here. I think they know where this is going. But it's basically, it's wind down time for somebody. Some program is one loss away from being out of this thing, or maybe they're already out of it. But I'd like to get Bo's opinion first here on Fade Me something, someone, some team. What you got, Bo?
Yeah, there's a lot of teams I think that we can fade this week. I think obviously UCF's a big one. UCF's loss, I think, puts them really just out of it. I mean, you can't really make the argument that they need to be in again. I just don't think, there's just not enough strength to schedule. And if they had gone all the way and, kept the undefeated streak up, shit, give them a shot. Why not? If we were lacking talent. But I just don't think they can really pull it off with a one loss already. I just don't think there's an opportunity. JJ, you got somebody?
Yeah, so I'm going to continue with the Pac-12 here.
Hey, go for it.
Dear Lord!
I am fading, and this is a team that I've kind of been fading all year. But this is a real reason to fade them now is Utah. I've not been big on Utah even since their first game against BYU, the poo-poo game.
Yeah, 30-10, I think it was, or something like that.
But even in that game, you take out those 2 pick sixes that Utah had. Their offense was not impressive. Their offense had 16 points. No. And I always had questions about their offense. Their defense wasn't the question. Their offense was the question. And you saw it last week at USC. They were only able to put up 20. And I think going forward, people are going to see that Utah's offense is not good enough.
Yeah.
For one, that one loss, even if they were in the table, they'd probably have trouble getting in anyway.
Yeah.
I would be very shocked if they don't end up with another 2 losses somewhere in Pac-12.
Man, that is heartbreaking in Ute country there, because I think they had kind of thought of themselves as a truly legitimate top 10 football team, and I wasn't going to argue with them.
Or at least a Pac-12 title contender, which at this point I don't see them as that.
That's in doubt. No. That's very much in doubt. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting take on them, and of course it's more Pac-12 time we're given. So since that was your fade me, do we have to even do Pac-12 seconds? Because I really want to open
I think we could fade a couple more teams here. I think that
Let's do it. Bo, shoot. You open
a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think we can fade Michigan. Michigan's kind of been outed as a fraud.
Yeah.
I don't think that they'll make.
Already. I wasn't ready to do that yet, but the loss was pretty lopsided.
Yeah. I mean, there was not. I don't think that there's a lot this season for them.
Yeah.
That they can really point at and say, hey, this is why we deserve to be a 1-loss, 2-loss team in. I just don't think that they had – I mean, I guess maybe if they run the gambit, but it'd still be pretty hard to make that argument, I think.
They'd have to have a lot of chaos in front of them, wouldn't they?
Right. Well, and it's like some of the Ohio State loss, that one year that Alabama got in when we probably shouldn't have. Everybody's talking about the Ohio State loss was
Thank you, Cyclones.
Yeah, the Ohio State loss was just too much. And so I think it would be kind of like that. I just don't think that Michigan be able to push themselves in, even if they run the gambit.
Yeah, monumental wins over Ohio State would be absolutely mandatory at this point.
Oh, sure. And you'd have to embarrass them. It'd be insane.
Yeah.
It would
JJ, what did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, like I said, Michigan, if they were to run the table from here on out, if they would go 12-1, they would finish the season running the table with what they have left on the schedule with Notre Dame on top of the rest of the Big Ten East. 12-1, Michigan still gets it.
Wow, and to Bo's point, they've got to embarrass Ohio State, don't they?
I think so. I mean, you'd have to.
I don't know if you need to go that far. If you beat Ohio State, you already jumped them, who's probably in anyway right now. In my opinion, they'd probably be one of the teams in. So you jump them anyway. You kind of just replace them. But Michigan's not going 12-1, so we don't need.
Yeah,
that was your don't tell me. Isn't that right?
Preface the whole thing there.
The only other team, the other fade that I would do is I would fade the entire ACC outside of Clemson. I know this has been touched on before, but realistically, if you were to take Clemson out of the ACC, I would
add them to the SEC. Shit, why not?
Oh, please don't.
I would make the ACC the 7th best conference.
Wow.
I would
Probably,
put the
yeah.
American and I would put the Mountain West Conference, but Clemson obviously elevates them over the conference.
Man, that's something I had not pondered. Is the ACC outside of Clemson probably is not as competitive
It's a
against the
group of 5
Mountain
conference.
West. Yeah,
It is. It's a group of 5 conference. They have a couple of teams that are kind of like kind of top 25, not top 20, but top 25.
yeah.
I think you guys are sleeping on Virginia. I think Virginia is a legitimate
But I'm
top
thinking
10
about
possible contender.
I worry about their offense. Bryce
Yeah.
Perkins, he doesn't look like the same guy he was last year. He looks like a very mediocre.
Man, wow. I mean, I
But
think
we've
about
seen the spark. We know what he can do.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is still kind of to my point. If Virginia is the 2nd best team in the conference, and again, they're vaguely top 25, maybe top 20, but not top 15. Like that's your 2nd best team. That's your
maybe
UCF.
get
That's your
15.
Boise State. If you take Clemson out of the conference, that's what the ACC is.
And that is really remarkable to even ponder right now, considering that Miami, with all the championship tradition they've
Florida
had,
State.
albeit Florida State, all the
Yeah,
championship
Florida State.
tradition that they have. Wake Forest, who's undefeated, I think, right now, and has been to 4 straight bowl games,
Yeah.
But it clearly is that Clemson is it in the ACC. And
As
otherwise,
Dabo would say, it's Clemson and the Roy bus.
And this is part of the reason why last year, I mean, going into the national championship game, it was kind of tough to predict that game because you didn't really know what Clemson was.
Yeah.
And
man, that's some great insight, JJ. I mean, I think about Alabama going into that game and how really the starting quarterback had not played a 4th quarter, either due to injury because we were up by 60 points all season long. So I think you could say that about Alabama 2018. What do we really know about them? They had to rally from behind against Georgia and hang on for dear life.
See, here's my thing. I don't put a lot of credence on a lot of that because I think Tua was a lot more hurt than we thought at the end of the season last year. And I think that because he was very talented and because we had good blocking, he was able to kind of continue to play and not have to worry too much. But he wasn't resting enough, I don't think. And I think that that's something that a lot of people didn't really talk about. And I don't want to make excuses for Alabama because, man, did we not shit the bed with that Clemson game.
Clemson manhandled them.
But I think that Tua was not 100% at that point in the season.
But to the point that I'm trying to make about Clemson is that even last year, there was nobody that was predicting that big of a win from Clemson, and mostly because they didn't play anybody. And that doesn't mean that they're not a good team, which they showed that they were.
They are, yeah,
it's
and
just
were.
That you didn't know going into that game what they really were, which really plays to their benefit because they can just kind of sleepwalk through the majority of their schedule and bring it out for those 2 games in the college football playoff. Is all right. Let's go after let's do our real stuff.
Yeah,
really get after it. And that's such an advantage.
That is a great advantage. I mean, you're number one. You're going to get the benefit of doubt, even though most people look at your schedule and say, this is a schedule full of disability teams. All right. So they're not going to, they're not playing every single week. They're not having to get up every single week. It's a really cool situation for Clemson, but you get exposed sometimes, as Alabama found out, in a big title game or a big playoff game when you don't
have to be a big game. I mean, Alabama. There were seasons where Alabama lost to Ole Miss, and Alabama still was one of the better teams in the nation.
Oh yeah.
You start sleepwalking a little too much, and you'll get surprised.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. And speaking of surprises, this week we're not having a Pac-12 seconds. I'm going to go to the 10:30 shots and chasers.
We've covered all of them.
I want to go to the 10:30 shots and chasers, and dear God, Pac-12 rears its ugly head again. Who wants to talk Washington State, Utah? I'd like to hear from either or both of you guys on that.
I'll start it. I mean,
okay.
That Washington State game last week, oh my goodness.
Nuts, huh?
If you didn't stay up to watch that game,
oh my God, it's great.
Really bad for you.
Dude, because I killed like a suitcase. Suitcase Saturday night, man.
That will, if you haven't watched it yet, it's still worth going back and watching it. That will be the best game of the season.
Yeah.
I don't feel overly bold in saying that.
It was more entertaining.
It's 130 points scored.
I mean, it was more entertaining than that.
And
I don't know. 7 overtimes is pretty damn entertaining.
Oh, it is, but
I'm not saying it was more entertaining than that game. I'm saying this year, I don't see anything topping it. I think
Oh,
that is
probably
this
not.
game of this year. And
I think I agree.
The fact it's the fact also that UCLA was the one that pulled off the upset.
out of nowhere.
Everybody had written them off. Everybody thought they were done. Like they
DOA.
thought they were 0-12.
Yep.
Like so, but to build on that again, I talked about earlier that I'm fading Utah.
Yeah.
Utah is at home here. I do get the sense a little bit that Washington State was picking ahead to this game a little bit because they were looking. I mean, if I was a coach at this point, I would have looked ahead over UCLA. Like that, it looked to me like Chip Kelly was just kind of waving the white flag, collecting millions of dollars of paycheck right there. And
do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Collect $200 million.
Yeah, whatever it is, he was just collecting, and it is what it is, and he didn't care. But I think Washington State was looking ahead a little bit, and I think that they're going to give Utah a challenge on the road again. I don't think Utah is that great of a team. I don't think that they're that much better. I don't think they're in the Oregon
I think their
class.
defense is legit.
I do. But are they legit enough to hold Washington State under, say, 30 points? Because
It's a great test. It's a great test. You're saying that Washington State's offense is better than USC's at this point, aren't you, JJ?
Yeah, I'm saying I don't see Utah's offense putting up more than 24, 27 points. And I don't see – I mean, Washington State's offense is going to put up a good amount of points.
35?
I don't think Utah's offense is good enough to keep up with a team like Washington State. I think it's a bad matchup. Even with Washington State on the road.
So you're giving the edge to Washington State's defense or Washington State's offense over Utah's defense, which is probably if that's the case, then I mean I'd probably take Washington State too. I think Utah maybe bounces back. I don't know. You're right that their offense hasn't really shown much of anything. They've left a lot to be desired, but I don't know. I mean, I think it'll come down to one of my favorite things in the world, which is turnovers. If they're a turnover touchdown, if Utah's defense can put a couple points on the board, I think there's an opportunity.
Look out.
Utah has done that. I talked about it earlier. They picked up 2 pick sixes against BYU. They get turnovers, and even last week, Washington State was prone to some turnovers. They fumbled a couple times. Anthony Gordon threw 2 interceptions to go with his 9 touchdowns. So his touchdown interception ratio was only 4.5.
Mike Leach likes to roll the dice, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he does. Can I close out that late night session, because at this point I will be completely out of Busch Light in my house, and all that will be left, for me to pander over is Hawaii at Nevada. Now, Bo, do you have a take on Hawaii, Nevada? Because I got no clue, man.
Honestly, I don't have much of a take either. I think Hawaii is a pretty solid team this season. I don't think Nevada will put up too much of a challenge for them. I don't know. I think that it's at Nevada, so obviously Hawaii is going to be traveling a bit, and I think that can really affect a team, especially when you're coming from kind of the tropical area of Hawaii into a Nevada, which is a lot drier. I just don't see a lot of draw to this game. I think that the Washington State Utah game is going to be the better game, but if it's going to be something, Hawaii Nevada will probably be fine. And I think
Pac-12 after dark wins again. JJ, anything you'd add before we start to wrap it up here?
I would add, I think that Hawaii is probably the better team.
Yeah.
Just like I also thought that Purdue was the better team when they played Nevada at Nevada. The elevation's a problem. Playing at elevation is a problem. You saw Purdue get up by 20 points. And their top players were just gassed. That was it. They didn't have it.
That's great analysis.
Purdue didn't have the depth to keep going and kind of keep pushing. Neither does Hawaii. I think Nevada makes a late comeback again and wins this game, but it's not because they're more talented. If this was in Hawaii, I would take it.
Yeah.
But with the elevation, with them being able to keep it close long enough, they'll kind of take over late in the game.
I tell you what, that may be the first and only time I've ever heard Lafayette, Indiana, and Honolulu, Hawaii compared in any way. That was beautiful. I mean, just brilliant there. So So well done there, guys. I mean, this is the kind of analysis that I think our show is great for. I mean, this stuff gets glossed over sometimes by the guys on the bigger networks and everything that get paid slightly more than us, and
Slightly.
and yeah, slightly. Well, all I know is David
It's only
Pollock's
what, 5, 6 zeros? Is that
David
right?
Pollock's not that great at pickup basketball, and I have that on a good information from Athens, Georgia. He's not that great at it, so whatever. That's all I got. But viewers guide for this weekend. This is something I'm probably going to have to let you guys lead a little bit. I mean, what would you say for the viewers guide is important for Saturday?
I think if you can only watch one game this week, I think you have to watch the Virginia Notre Dame game.
Boom, like that one.
I think that it's going to be close. I think Virginia's going to surprise some people. And I think, yes, Notre Dame showed a lot last week, and they really kept up with Georgia pretty well. But I think Virginia's going to scare some people. I don't think people are giving enough credence there. Maybe I'm just harping on Virginia a little too much, but
we'll see. I like the Who's in that one, actually. I feel like Notre Dame is either going to be a little depressed from the loss or maybe exhausted from the effort that they put in, and Virginia has an opportunity.
Definitely a letdown spot.
Yeah, it is. What else, JJ? Do you have something you'd add there?
Well, I think that if you're going to watch the Notre Dame Virginia spot 3:30, then the other game to watch is Washington State Utah in the late game. Stay up and watch that game.
That's going to be good.
Appreciate, again, in just a couple months, we're going to be without football again. Don't miss an opportunity. Don't miss an opportunity to watch more football. Stay up.
And it'll be a fun game. I'm not saying it's not going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I really think that if this Virginia and Notre Dame claim is close, man, oh, buddy.
Yeah, that's a barn burner, man. Pac-12 is going to be more compelling football, it sounds like, the rest of the year, like they probably have been so far. But we're going to get into the meat of the conference schedules and the Big 10, the Big 12 Red River Shootout not far away now and everything. Don't forget that we haven't mentioned Oklahoma much in this session, probably because, they took the weekend off like they did the first 3 weeks of the season. I think they posted a score the first 3 weeks. But Sunday, the day after, the day of dread for me and my household, because mainly I'm thinking about having to go back to my day job. And I'm usually out of alcohol by then. Fortunately, Shelby County, Alabama is wet. So
yes,
I've got that going for me. What kind of Sunday storylines you following, JJ? Anything big going on?
For me, I really think the Sunday storyline is going to be chalk. I think it's going to be that I don't see a big upset on the schedule this week.
Yeah.
I see even some of the teams that are kind of breaking into conference play on the at the upper level of the top 25. They're not playing challenging teams.
Okay.
Alabama, Ole Miss is not going to be a close game.
Sure,
Wisconsin, Northwestern,
it better not be.
Not going to be a close game. Like there's a lot of games at the top, in that top 10 of teams where you're trying to find out what the separate. It's going to be weird where you don't really find that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to wait to find that out. It's going to be one of those weeks where the power ranking out on ESPN or the power ranking or the college football poll on Reddit comes out and not much changes. It's just going to be just one of those weeks that happens that builds to another chaos week that we kind of had last week, honestly.
Yeah. What about you, Bo? Anything Sunday you're following particularly?
I mean, I think I'm kind of just repeating myself, but I think we're going to see Virginia back. I think we're going to see a little bit. I think Notre Dame's going to fall again, and I think that Virginia is going to be kind of the talk of maybe the 15 slot area. I don't.
Well, it's okay to come out of the closet. We know you're a Cavalier now. Okay, you're making it clear.
I am not a Cavalier now, but man, if I don't really want them to be good, so
it's a good call. I mean, it really is. It's an interesting football game.
Well, and I'm living and dying by my own words here, so I'll probably be eating crow in all honesty.
You're really going big on Virginia.
Yeah, I'm probably going to eat crow on Sunday, so there we go. That'll be my Sunday
I do think
story.
Virginia could win it, yeah.
This is the same team that trailed Old Dominion late into the third quarter.
Ooh.
But didn't they pull it out?
They did indeed. What could Virginia Tech not do in 2018? Pull off the win over the Monarchs, okay?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, if you call yourself the Monarch, you're technically not saying you're a group of butterflies. I don't know. I mean,
I guess that's an interpretation.
That's my way of saying it. We lost to a team that calls themselves the Butterflies.
We lost to the Butterflies.
All right, guys, thank you so much for tonight. This has been hell of a lot of fun as always.
It's been a
Best
great
part of my week. JJ, Bo, you guys are pros. You know a hell of a lot more about football than I do, thank God. But you don't know more about Pinot Noir, especially cheap boxed variety. Okay. So have a great night. Thank you for your production,
Hey, you too.
production crew. You guys are awesome, and we want to thank Bear as well for not coming on our show tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Will, for letting us actually talk about the Pac-12.
Thanks for letting us open up a little bit. I feel like a weight is off my chest.
Nice. Good night, guys.